Have you ever wondered why some men never need to chase, yet women can't stop thinking about them? It isn't luck, and it isn't charm. It's something deeper, something forged in discipline and silence. And once you understand it, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. A woman doesn't lose sleep over the man who begs for her attention. She doesn't run after the one who places her on a pedestal. What draws her in is the rare man who carries himself like a fortress. His silence weighs more than empty words. His presence feels like a storm contained, but powerful. From the first glance, she senses it. This is not a man to be owned. This is a man to be pursued. Women are not drawn to weakness dressed as kindness. They are drawn to strength hidden in simplicity. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That truth explains why some men become unforgettable. Their attraction doesn't come from looks, or wealth, or loudness. It comes from mastery. Mastery of emotion, mastery of words, mastery of desire. Think of it like fire. Most men let their fire burn recklessly, too hot, too wild, too uncontrolled. But the Stoic man contains his fire. He chooses when to release it. That control creates gravity. Women feel it the way you feel heat from a flame. You can't ignore it. Seneca warned, "He who is everywhere is nowhere. The man who chases every woman, who wastes himself on every fleeting desire, loses his edge. But the man who selects carefully, who resists cheap temptations, glows with a rare aura of discipline." In today's world, where attention is cheap and desperation is everywhere, the man who masters himself becomes a mystery. He doesn't ask to be chased. His very stillness makes it inevitable. Discipline is the foundation of real masculine strength. Charm fades, appearance changes, but self-control never loses its power. A man who cannot master himself becomes easy to predict, and once predictable, he loses his value. Seneca once said, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." The man who spreads himself thin, chasing every woman and every fleeting desire, quickly dulls his edge. He becomes like a sword that has struck too many surfaces, blunt, ordinary, forgettable. But the man who withholds, who chooses carefully, radiates a different energy. He is not moved by cheap temptations. His restraint creates an aura that women cannot resist. Just as rarity increases value in gold or diamonds, scarcity raises the value of his approval. What is rare becomes priceless. Psychology confirms this truth. Scarcity drives desire. When something is hard to obtain, we instinctively value it more. A man who is not easily won becomes the prize. A woman may deny it with words, but her actions reveal that she craves the challenge, not what is handed to her freely. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and freedom is exactly what she senses in a disciplined man. He is not enslaved by impulses or validation. He is whole on his own, and that independence creates the gravity that pulls her closer." Machiavelli once observed that people are more loyal when uncertain than when secure. The same truth applies to relationships. Women often lose interest in a man who gives himself away too easily. Predictability breeds boredom, but mystery sparks desire. A man who keeps part of himself veiled creates tension. That tension becomes curiosity, and curiosity turns into obsession. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When a man's thoughts are rooted in discipline, his actions reflect restraint, and restraint paints him with an aura that captivates. Think of it like a novel. If the ending is revealed on the first page, why keep reading? But when the plot unfolds slowly, when the mystery lingers, the reader cannot put it down. In the same way, a woman is drawn deeper by the questions left unanswered, the silence that makes her wonder. The paradox is simple. The man who does not need her becomes the man she cannot stop thinking about. Epictetus reminded us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom from need is what makes a man magnetic. He is whole on his own, and that wholeness makes her chase what she cannot own. True strength in a man is not loud or boastful. It is quiet, steady, and unshaken. Picture two men. One talks endlessly, trying to impress with promises and empty words. The other speaks little, but his presence lingers long after he's gone. Which one stays in her mind? Which one does she replay in her thoughts? Always the man who is calm, measured, and mysterious. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This freedom shows in how a man carries himself, his words controlled, his emotions steady, his gaze unwavering. It is not about coldness, but about balance. A man who governs his reactions cannot be manipulated by silence, rejection, or sudden tests. Think of a mountain. The winds may rage, storms may strike, yet the mountain remains unmoved. That is the image of the Stoic man. He does not flinch when ignored. He does not bend when tested. His strength is not in seeking validation, but in needing none. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. The Stoic man lives by this truth. He refuses to be shaken by moods or emotions he cannot control. And it is this calm mastery, not charm, not wealth, that makes him unforgettable. History shows us a timeless truth. Women respect the man who governs himself, or not the one who surrenders everything for approval. She may say she wants endless affection and constant validation, but her choices reveal otherwise. She is drawn to the fire she cannot tame, not the candle she can easily extinguish. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The Stoic man embodies this wisdom. He does not allow her moods, her silence, or her withdrawal to define his worth. His peace comes from within, and that peace cannot be shaken. Think of a seasoned sailor. Calm seas or raging storms, he keeps his hand steady on the wheel. The Stoic man is the same in relationships. He is not shaped by her validation. Instead, he shapes himself through discipline and purpose. Seneca warned, "He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary." Most men collapse under imagined fears, fear of losing her, fear of rejection. But the Stoic man does not live in fear. He remains rooted in his principles, and that quiet strength is what makes him unforgettable. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved." If you cannot be both, in relationships, this truth takes on a different form. A man who is too secure, too predictable, often loses her interest. But uncertainty, when handled with wisdom, creates pursuit. Women are not drawn to men who constantly give themselves away. They are drawn to the one who withholds, who leaves space, who keeps part of himself beyond reach. That space becomes the spark of desire. Just as silence in music makes the notes more powerful, restraint in a man makes his presence unforgettable. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The man who doesn't need her constant approval holds the real wealth freedom. And that freedom is magnetic. She feels it in his pauses, his patience, his willingness to walk away rather than beg. Think of a seasoned general. He does not rush into every battle. He waits, observes, and wins through strategy, not desperation. In the same way, the Stoic man's weapon is silence, his shield is restraint, and his victory is patience. And it is in this quiet mastery that her desire grows wild. Women live surrounded by men desperate for attention messages, likes, endless compliments. But in a world of noise, the rare man who is silent, steady, and self-contained stands out. His mystery becomes his strength. Marcus Aurelius said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. A man who values himself above external approval cannot be swayed by her, moods, or the validation of strangers. That independence is what ignites her instincts. Imagine scrolling through countless voices all speaking the same words. Then one voice, calm and measured, cuts through the chaos. That is how she feels when she meets a Stoic man. His restraint becomes contrast, and contrast awakens desire. Epictetus taught, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. Freedom from need is what she feels when she looks at him." He is not desperate for her gaze. He does not move with the rhythm of her emotions. That calm resistance is the very thing that pulls her closer. The true test of a man comes when he is challenged. Most collapse under silence, rejection, or emotional storms. But the Stoic man stands firm, steady like a rock against crashing waves. He does not lose himself when she pulls away, nor does he beg when she withholds affection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." A man who lives by this is unshaken by her moods. Her tests cannot break him, because his strength is not rooted in her response, but in his own discipline. Think of a strategist on the battlefield. While others rush and panic, he waits with calm patience, allowing the enemy to overextend. His silence becomes his weapon, his restraint, his shield. In the same way, the Stoic man wins not by chasing, but by holding steady. Epictetus reminded us, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This truth defines the unmovable man. Every attempt to control him collapses against his self-mastery. And it is precisely this calm indifference that makes him unforgettable. There is a difference between arrogance and true mastery. Arrogance shouts, demands attention, and seeks to dominate. Mastery is quiet, steady, and undeniable. The arrogant man tries to prove his worth. The Stoic man doesn't need to. His presence speaks for him. Seneca said, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. The man who governs himself does not chase. Respect flows toward him. He does not beg for loyalty. It is freely given because his restraint earns it." Think of fire. Arrogance is a wildfire, loud, consuming, and destructive. Mastery is a controlled flame, small, steady, and impossible to extinguish. One burns out quickly, the other provides lasting light. That is the difference she feels when she meets a man who is rooted in discipline, not ego. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The Stoic man lives this truth. He does not posture or pretend. His life is the argument, his actions the proof. And it is this quiet mastery, not arrogance, that makes him unforgettable. The greatest empire a man can rule is not the world, but himself. A man who has mastered his inner world walks with a strength that cannot be bought or broken. He is like a lone wolf, silent, untamed, and complete within himself. Seneca declared, "The greatest empire is to be emperor of oneself." This truth sets apart the man who resists temptation and controls his desires. While others are enslaved by impulses, he remains sovereign, shaping his path with discipline. Picture a mountain fortress unshaken by storms, standing tall through centuries. That is the Stoic man. He does not kneel for favor, nor tremble for approval. His strength lies not in what he takes, but in what he refuses. Epictetus reminded us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The man who embodies this freedom becomes rare. His silence has weight, his restraint has power, and his independence has gravity. Women sense it instantly, for true freedom is magnetic. And it is this self-mastery that makes him unforgettable. Desire burns brightest when it is denied. The man who gives too much to Isley loses his value. But the one who withholds, who offers only what is rare, becomes unforgettable. Women may deny this truth with words, but their actions prove it. What is scarce becomes irresistible. Marcus Aurelius said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself." A Stoic man needs little from others because he is whole within himself. His lack of need is what draws her closer. She senses his independence, and that freedom makes him magnetic. Think of rare jewels. Common stones are overlooked, but diamonds, precisely because they are scarce, are treasured. In the same way, a man whose approval is not easily, one becomes priceless in her eyes. Epictetus wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The man who desires little cannot be manipulated by promises or swayed by beauty." His freedom from want becomes his strength, and that restraint creates the mystery that compels her to chase him. History remembers not the flatterers, but the conquerors, not the men who begged, but the men who ruled themselves. Women across centuries have been drawn to those who stood apart, not because of gifts or charm, but because of mastery of self. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." The man who embodies this truth does not crumble under rejection or crave validation. He is whole within, and that wholeness makes him unforgettable. Picture a mountain silent, immovable, yet commanding awe. The Stoic man is that mountain. He does not call her. He does not beg. His silence becomes a mirror to her own desire. She chases not because he asked, but because she cannot resist the strength she feels in his restraint. Epictetus reminded us, "No man is free who is not master of himself. The man who needs nothing becomes the man she needs most." His discipline forges him into something rare, and what is rare always awakens pursuit. This is why she chases not to own him, but to taste even a fragment of his strength.